the grand chamber of dominion on Virex. 7 shimmered with 1,000 banners fluttering on artificial wind. Alien dignitaries from every loyal quadrant gathered beneath the stained glass dome, a prismatic cathedral of victory. The war was over. The human threat had been neutralized. Officially. Admiral Zareth of the Kellery Swarmkin stood at the central dais, mandibles clicking rhythmically in ceremonial cadence. Behind him loomed the holographic image of Earth, crossed out in crimson and rotating slowly, like a conquered trophy. "We commend the bravery of our soldiers and the sacrifice of those who scrubbed the lower hulls of our ships," he declared, voice translated in velvet monotone through universal speechcasters. "And above all, we honor the final strike, Operation Cinderlight, wherein the last significant human vessel was destroyed." Polite applause rippled through the chamber. A few of the more evolved species winced at the footage. The human freighter, Raven 9, spiraling into the gravity well of a fractured moon. Fire. Static. One still frame, a young human female, body charred, face slack with death, floating in wreckage. Captioned beneath her image, Target 001, KAIA-RELL, terminated. Ambassador Zornik adjusted his collar nodes anxiously. Are we quite sure she's dead? Really, absolutely sure." His voice cracked. He was not built for celebration. His species, the Sill, had hollow bones and thinner nerves. Nervousness was baked into their evolution. "She was incinerated in atmospheric collapse," hissed Zareth. "Even humans do not survive plasma compression." "Right, but, well, you've met them. They're odd." A nervous chuckle escaped a Valerian envoy. "Odd? They invented a food called candy corn, and treat it as both a joke and a holiday ritual." "I'm saying," Zornik whispered, leaning in, "what if she comes back?" There was a pause. A beat of unspoken dread. Then the chamber laughed as one, like a chorus of relief trying too hard to believe itself. 2 sectors away, on the mining moon Kravix 12, a minor security drone registered motion. In the crater where debris from Raven 9 had settled, the air shimmered. A figure emerged, barefoot, skin scraped, wrapped in shredded thermal mesh and a jacket that had clearly belonged to a dead soldier. Kaya Rel blinked against the light. She took a slow breath, checked her pulse, still there, and limped toward the nearest surveillance unit. "You're gonna want to call your boss," she murmured, wiping ash from her brow. "Tell them the funeral was premature." Then she smiled. The footage reached Empire Command within the hour. The communications officer who opened the packet fainted. His supervisor vomited. Zareth rewatched the recording 28 times in stony silence. Zornik paced so hard he wore a trench in the marble floor of his office. "I said she'd come back. Didn't I say? I said, humans don't stay dead. And you laughed." "She's unarmed," muttered one of the aides. "She was unarmed the first time." Zornik snapped, voice rising into a banshee shriek. "She killed a Gorthian war beast with a helmet strap and a stern lecture. But we destroyed her body. Obviously not well enough." Meanwhile, on Kravix 12, Kaya sat beneath a rusted loading crane. Her hands shook from nerve trauma, but she focused. She peeled the wrapper off a slightly melted granola bar and ate in slow, thoughtful bites. A mining droid approached, wary. Its programming urged caution, but curiosity won. "You are human." "Last I checked." She took another bite. "You got peanut butter?" "No." "Shame. I could kill for peanut butter." The droid hesitated. "Kill whom?" Kaya laughed. It was light, lovely. "Oh, honey. That was just an expression." The droid backed away. Fast. Aboard the dreadnought Vexra, high in orbit, Zareth summoned the science tribunal. She was dead. Confirmed. "Perhaps," offered Dr. Gaz, an ooze-like intellect sealed in a pressurized orb, "she operates on different neurological terms. We still don't understand their full regenerative behaviors. One study suggests they sleep less when angry." "She came back," Zareth repeated, pacing. "She didn't even bring a weapon. She just stood there and smiled. Zornik added, trembling. That's the worst part. That smile. Empire intelligence reviewed autopsy reports from previous human captives. Notes included, organ redundancy high, emotional masking advanced, predatory mimicry suspected, vocal patterns misleading. One even concluded, they smell weakness like sharks. Also, never trust the short ones. Kaya's file, reactivated from deep storage, displayed in red. Subject, Rel, Kaya. Rank, unknown. Possibly civilian. Possibly higher. Traits, courteous. Evasive. Smiles often. Dangerous when emotional. Known to sing prior to attacks. We underestimated her, Zareth growled. She was underestimated on purpose, Zornik whispered. It's part of their whole camouflage routine. The meekness, the small talk. And then boom, your reactor's gone and she's quoting poetry. Back on Kravix 12, Kaya examined the crater where her ship had died. She found remnants of her AI core, half melted. She smiled sadly. Hey, birdie. You still in there? A flicker. A garbled voice. H. Ka. Rel. Singularity. Breach. Fun. She kissed the blackened hull. Good effort. Then she stood, back straightening. In her gaze burned something new. Not vengeance. Something cooler. Older. Calculating. The Empire dispatched a scout vessel. They ordered a non-lethal retrieval. It exploded precisely 4 minutes after touchdown. No survivors. The only transmission recovered was a single audio loop of Kaya's voice, calm and pleasant. Please leave me alone. This is my crater now. I like it here. Zornik refused to sleep. She's setting up territory. She's nesting. She's not an animal. You don't understand humans, Zornik hissed. They nest when angry. They grow plants. They talk to them. Then they weaponize them. You know what she did during the last war? She gave the enemy commander a cactus before his ship exploded. Coincidence. She named it Boom Bloom. You think that's subtle? They rewound the latest footage. Kaya, standing on the hill above the crater, wearing mismatched boots, holding a steaming cup of something suspiciously resembling cocoa. A galactic patrol ship approached overhead. She looked up, smiled, and raised the mug in salute. Then it erupted into flames, falling like a dying comet. Kaya watched it burn, expression thoughtful. That was a warning shot, she murmured. Command watched in silence. She wasn't bluffing. She never had. She has no army, someone finally said. She doesn't need one, replied Zareth, voice low. She's the advance unit. The one they send to check if we're still stupid. Kaya spent the evening in a ruined control shack. She found an old radio and tuned until Earth jazz filtered through, faint and crackling. She hummed. Rearranged shattered equipment into what might have been a sculpture or a transmitter or a bomb. It was hard to tell. She sipped her cocoa again. Best served warm, she said to no one. An insectoid courier arrived the next day bearing a white flag hologram and a packet labeled Diplomatic Overture. Kaya accepted it. She opened it. Inside, a formal letter requesting a ceasefire dialogue, a bouquet of synth flowers, and 6 protein bars. She kept the protein bars. The letter, she burned. Zornik screamed when he saw the footage. She took the snacks. That's a psychological response. She's rewarding herself for emotional victories. Perhaps, Zareth said slowly, we need to talk to her. Try reason. Zornik burst into shrill laughter. You can't reason with a species that considers just vibing a military tactic. On Kravix 12, Kaya stared into the stars, her reflection faint in a shard of broken viewport glass. They think I'm alone, she whispered. They always do. She touched the comms device she'd rebuilt. It pulsed once, green. Wake up the others, she said. The signal traveled silently into the dark. And far away, too far to trace, something ancient stirred. The neutral zone rendezvous station floated like a cracked marble at the edge of the demilitarized nebula, held together more by tradition than engineering. Once a meeting place for trade envoys and diplomatic bartering, it now stood as the last sliver of protocol in a galaxy that had come to realize rules were mostly optional when humans were involved. Admiral Zareth arrived cloaked in ceremonial armor, reflective plating polished to an offensive gleam. Behind him came Zornik, twitching, dressed in a diplomatic robe 2 sizes too large. His eyes darting like he expected Kaya Rel to descend from a vent shaft and start quoting Earth poetry mid-negotiation. Which, historically, was not impossible. The diplomatic table was round, metallic, inscribed with the combined languages of the Pact. On it sat a carafe of neutral water, a holographic treaty draft, and a steaming mug of something cinnamon-scented that no one claimed to have brought. Then the doors opened. Kaya Rel entered without fanfare, without guards, without armor. Just her battered Earth Standard uniform, repaired with what looked like alien sailcloth and adorned with one pin, a silver feather that hadn't existed in any military catalog. Her hair was tied back in a loose knot. Her boots mismatched. And in her left hand, she carried a bright red lunchbox. "Apologies for the delay," she said, her voice warm. "Had to wrestle with an ethical dilemma about whether to eat before or after blowing up your escort ship." Zornik let out a strangled squeak. Zareth remained still, unreadable. Kaya sat, placed her lunchbox gently on the table, and opened it. Inside were 3 chocolate chip cookies, a bundle of what looked like homemade jerky, and a sealed paper note that read, "In case of assassination attempt, flip this table." She did not explain. She offered cookies instead. "No tricks," she said pleasantly. "I baked them myself, with mostly local ingredients." "You detonated a scout cruiser this morning," Zareth replied coldly. "I said it was a warning shot." Kaya bit into a cookie. "You sent it anyway. Don't blame me for follow-through. We came here to negotiate." She licked a crumb off her thumb. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Zornik, gathering the fragments of his courage like eggshells after a fall, leaned forward. "Miss Rel, we are aware you have certain emotional responses to our prior actions. However, the Galactic Empire is committed to peace." Kaya's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Peace with a girl you spaced?" "A regrettable overreaction," Zornik mumbled. "Our data at the time was incomplete. You blew up my ship, a hostile vessel. I was delivering medical supplies to a quarantine moon. That moon was strategically inconvenient to our border integrity," Zareth interjected. Kaya snapped her fingers. "Ah, there it is. Empire logic. Because nothing says security like killing nurses." A pause hung in the air. Zareth's carapace flexed slightly. Zornik looked like he was trying to dissolve into the furniture. "I came," Kaya said, "because I believe in talking things through. That's what we do. We talk. We warn. We give second chances. Third, sometimes. You blew up 3 ships. And no one died," she said brightly. "I checked. I even gave evacuation time." "You're welcome." Zornik tapped nervously at the treaty draft. "If you would be so kind as to review our peace terms." Kaya picked it up, turned it over, and used it as a napkin. "Needs more salt," she said, nibbling a piece of jerky. "Miss Rel," Zareth said, tone flat, "you appear to think this situation is humorous. I think the Empire murdered a humanitarian convoy, declared victory over a corpse, and then sent snacks to a girl they failed to kill. I think that's hilarious." A long silence followed. Kaya leaned back in her chair. "I'm here because I want you to understand something. I'm not angry." "That's relieving," Zornik said too quickly. "I'm disappointed," she continued. "You thought humans would scream. That we'd lash out. Maybe run." "You did scream," Zareth said. Kaya's eyes darkened. "Oh no. That wasn't a scream. That was the warm-up." Zornik dropped his stylus. "I tried to be diplomatic," Kaya said, more quietly now. You slaughtered a ship full of medics. You silenced Earth's protests. You sent drones to sweep up the wreckage of your own war crime. And then you painted my face on a banner and labeled me terminated. She stood slowly, lunchbox in hand. So I decided to come back. And politely disagree. The doors to the chamber opened again. A protocol drone wheeled in, blinking erratically. Apologies, it said in several frequencies. A message has arrived. Addressed to Kaya Rel. Origin unknown. Kaya took the datapad without surprise. Read it. Smiled faintly. I'll need to borrow a star chart, she said. Looks like someone just found one of our listening posts. Zornik nearly fainted. Your listening posts? Kaya tilted her head. What, you thought Earth stopped building things after the last treaty? That we didn't hide anything? You were sanctioned. She grinned. And still we found ways. You're bluffing. She tapped her lunchbox. It beeped. Somewhere far above, alarms triggered in the orbiting Vexra. Zaratha's translator garbled as he barked orders into his comms. Relax, Kaya said, finishing her second cookie. That one's not going to explode. It's just going to sing. Sing. Earth National Anthem. Loudly. On every comms frequency you use. Zornik's eye ridges contracted in horror. That's psychological warfare. Is it? Kaya shrugged. Or is it just annoying? The hologram table flickered. Every display screen in the room lit up with the slow, solemn beat of Earth's anthem. Deep brass, a haunting soprano, the kind of music that could either accompany a funeral or a victory parade depending on what you set on fire afterward. Shut it off. Zareth shouted. You can't, Kaya said. You'd have to disable every relay between here and Sector 5. But then you wouldn't hear my next message. What message? Kaya placed a small crystal on the table. A projection flared to life. Alien starships, burning. Human fighters, sleek and quiet, darting like vipers through the wreckage. No dialogue. Just music. And silence. We were peaceful, Kaya said. We asked for coexistence. You wanted conquest. So now you're going to learn the hard part of human nature. And what's that? Zareth asked. Kaya stepped close. Closer than protocol allowed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We smile before we bite. With that, she turned and walked out. The anthem still playing behind her. The scent of cinnamon lingering like gunpowder in a temple. 4 hours afterward, the chamber remained quiet. Zareth stared at the flickering display. Zornik sat in his chair, motionless, mumbling to himself. She came to talk, he whispered. And we still lost the conversation. The next cycle brought worse news. 3 of the Empire's outposts had gone silent. No distress calls. No explosions. Just silence. As if they'd vanished into the vacuum. Zareth called an emergency war council. Zornik arrived late, disheveled, dragging a paper file with Earth's earliest psych evaluations on humanity. She's using Stage 9 rhetoric, he said. No one uses Stage 9. Humans invented Stage 9. The polite dread. You know what she said to me before she left. No one answered. She thanked me. Aboard a civilian ship docked for repairs, Kaya wandered quietly. She stopped at a mess hall, where an alien child was crying over a broken toy. Without a word, she crouched, fixed it with a wire from her sleeve, and handed it back. Be careful with it, she said. Things break easy. The child smiled. Kaya smiled back. The moment passed. She moved on. Word spread. The human girl was not a ghost. She was real. She was alone. And the Empire was losing its nerve. Messages filtered into Earth's shadow networks. Whispers. Movement. Echoes of the old fleet stirring in deep space. On a fractured moon orbiting a dead sun, a beacon lit up after 2 centuries of dormancy. No Empire technology could read it. But every human signal responded with the same message. Protocol Revenant initiated. Back on Kravix 12, Kaya returned to her crater. She sat beneath the broken stars and opened the final cookie. Then, carefully, she pulled a black device from her jacket. A short-range relay, Earth-designed. She powered it up. The interface pulsed. "Birdie?" she asked softly. The screen blinked. Once. Twice. Yes. Kaya closed her eyes. They're listening now. Good. Then let's begin. And in the void, a signal stretched out, long, sharp, and patient. Waiting. The Empire struck first. Not in ceremony, not in diplomacy, but with fire. 10 fleet-class warships warped into Kravix 12's orbit under blackout conditions. Orders were explicit: extract or eliminate subject Kaya Rel. Non-lethal if possible. Lethal if necessary. Preferably clean. Ideally quiet. The mission lasted 13 minutes. Contact was lost at minute 4. What came next was not noise, but silence. Radio dead zones, telemetry voids, scanners blacking out one by one like candles in a storm. The only recovered data was from a half-destroyed escape pod retrieved 3 sectors away. Its interior was coated in crystallized coolant and carbon scoring. Inside, the black box chirped once and played 3 seconds of sound. Laughter. Human. Female. Come. Then static. Zareth sat still as the recording played again in his war room. The officers around him fidgeted, avoiding his gaze. Zornik stood pressed against the far wall, arms crossed like he could hold his organs inside by willpower alone. "She was supposed to be on that moon," Zareth said slowly. "She was," Zornik muttered. Briefly. The Admiral's claws twitched against the polished command rail. This was a surgical operation. "Humans," Zornik said, "tend not to enjoy surgery. Especially when they're the ones on the table. She couldn't have done this alone." Zornik gave a bitter, small laugh. "Why not? You've seen her record. She shut down a Virexian dreadnought with 2 oxygen tanks and a mirrored visor. She sweet-talked a bounty hunter into turning on his own squad. The analysts think she's improvising. I think she's planning. She's a scavenger," another officer scoffed. "Not a strategist." Zornik stepped forward. "You don't get it. None of you do. You're still thinking she's reacting. She's not. She's been waiting." In the hollowed bones of the Kravix 12 outpost, Kaya walked the empty halls. Her boots clinked on metal floors that still bore scorch marks from the last engagement. A single drone hovered beside her, jury-rigged and blinking with earth-coated LEDs. "Vexra down?" she asked softly. The drone chirped once. "Affirmative." Kaya nodded. "That makes 4. She crouched, examined a charred panel, and ran her fingers across the edge where plasma had melted metal into slag. The Empire's tech always melted too easily. Beautiful designs. Fragile cores. "They always think big means unbreakable," she said to the drone. "But it just means more to hit." From the shadows, her AI's voice replied, low and reconstituted from the fractured pieces of Birdie. 14 outposts in total. 5 fleets. All vulnerable. And they still think I'm alone. You are not. She smiled faintly. The galaxy didn't understand. Or rather, it did, but too late. The Empire had misread humanity's nature again and again. Their mistake was foundational. They thought the species was primitive, reactionary, sentimental. They saw emotion and mistook it for weakness. Smiles mistaken for submission. Humor mistaken for distraction. What they missed, what Kaya embodied, was that humans didn't bluff. They waited. They stored memory in story. They sharpened grief into weaponry. They carried anger like a seed until it grew into something unstoppable. Empire propaganda had once declared humans chaotic, difficult to predict. In truth, they were easy to predict. But what came after that prediction? After the misstep, the insult, the wrong sister, or the ruined peace mission, that was where the galaxy always got it wrong. Kaya passed through the last door of the moon's command post and stepped into a room filled with silence. At its center was a single message beacon, pulsing slow green. "Ready?" she asked. Birdie's reply crackled. "Transmission primed. All coordinates locked. Send it." Above them, unseen in the dark space between stars, 37 dormant satellites spun to life. The signal jumped system to system, bypassing Empire encryption, speaking in a language long since wiped from galactic translators. A language that didn't shout. It whispered. It told a story. A warning. And across the stars, other sleepers stirred. Human outposts, supposedly dismantled, flickered online. Weapon caches coded in children's lullabies opened like flowers at dawn. Decommissioned ships, hidden under asteroid crusts, powered up in eerie synchronicity. The Empire, which had long boasted of wiping Earth's militaristic reach from the known systems, found itself staring into a mirror they thought shattered. At Empire Command, Zornik stared at a flashing display filled with the growing red dots of unknown vessels. "Where did they come from?" someone whispered. "No one knows," another answered. Zornik turned slowly. She planned this. All of it. Her death. Her return. The diplomacy. She wasn't negotiating. She was measuring our response time. Zareth stared at the data. His voice was hoarse. This was never about revenge. It was an audit, Zornik said. They turned to the holoscreen. Kaya stood in the middle of a live broadcast, unauthorized, untraceable, elegant in its brutality. "Hello, Empire," she said. Her voice was calm, polite. "No fire. No screaming. I know you're watching. I've gone out of my way to ensure that. Consider this a status report." She began to pace slowly. "You killed my ship. You broke our treaties. You labeled humans resolved. That was the word, wasn't it? Resolved. Like we were a virus you'd finally disinfected." She looked into the camera. "We noticed." She smiled. "The thing about humans? We take our time. We plant seeds. We write songs. We act soft. But we watch. We listen. And when we move." The broadcast cut briefly to footage, silent, black and white, grainy, of a Kellery cruiser tearing itself apart from the inside. No explosions. Just structural collapse. Quiet. Surgical. We don't scream. We don't announce. We just begin. Across the galaxy, systems long dominated by the Empire flickered with the first signs of open rebellion. In colonies where humans had once lived quietly, traders, tinkerers, doctors, drifters, new orders spread. Activations. Uprisings. Alliances the Empire didn't know existed. And in all of them, the same signature. The same message. Revenant. The Empire's War Council convened in a frenzy. "This isn't a war," one general snapped. "It's psychological sabotage." "She's a myth," said another. "A symbol." "She's a tactician," Zornik barked. "She's using your own paranoia as fuel." Zareth rose. "She's become what the humans always threatened to become, a story with teeth." Kaya's next move wasn't a strike. It was a visit. Aboard a trade station outside the Empire's regulated zone, she walked into a tavern filled with neutral merchants, ex-soldiers, informants, and drunks. She ordered tea. By the second cup, half the room had gone quiet. Someone whispered, "That's her." She smiled. "You don't have to run. I'm off duty." A merchant approached cautiously. "You're the Revenant." Kaya's fine. "You really took out 4 dreadnoughts?" She sipped her tea. "I only shot one. The others just panicked." "You're not what I expected." Kaya leaned forward. "That's the point." Word spread faster than warp. The girl who had died. The ghost who smiled. The strategist who never raised her voice. She walked without guards, carried no weapons, and left behind only confusion, and the occasional song embedded in planetary networks that, once played, Shut down local Empire comms for 48 hours. Empire morale fractured. Officers began resigning in clusters. Some defected. Some disappeared. Recruitment rates collapsed. Every simulation that included a human variable now ended in total loss. But the question no one could answer, the question that haunted every chamber of command, was, what is she building toward? It wasn't revenge. It wasn't conquest. It was precision. She's setting a pattern, Zareth finally said. And then she's going to break it. Break it? Zornik asked. Zareth nodded slowly. The moment we feel we've mapped her method, she'll pivot. That's when the real damage begins. Kaya, meanwhile, watched star charts with quiet satisfaction. Birdie's rebuilt voice asked, "Are you ready for the final phase?" "Not yet." "Why delay? They're still underestimating us. Let it simmer." She paused. "They haven't felt fear yet. Just confusion. Fear comes next." She stood slowly. Behind her, 12 lieutenants waited. Human. Come. Each one marked with the same revenant sigil burned into their sleeves. "It's not just about one death," Kaya said. "It's about every time they thought we'd stay down." She stepped forward, into the dark. "Let's give them something to remember." The Empire had always believed the worst thing about humans was their unpredictability. They were wrong. The worst thing about humans was that they waited. They pretended to lose. They accepted humiliation. They endured long silences and smiled when they should have screamed. They held doors open, even for executioners. And then, when all eyes turned away, they moved. Aboard the Revenant-class vessel Winnow, Kaya Rel stood before a wall of screens, her face calm, posture loose, expression unreadable. Around her, the ship hummed, not with menace, but with readiness. 1,000 threads pulled tight across systems, frequencies, borders. One move, and the whole galaxy would hear the snap. Birdie's voice had grown sharper since the original crash. The AI now spoke with the cadence of a human who had learned sarcasm by studying post-war radio. 19 Empire strongholds are awaiting reinforcement. 3 have already rerouted resources to non-existent threats. Their war tables showing ghosts. "Let them chase them," Kaya replied. She ran a finger along the datapad, mapping one last vector. "Ghosts are easier than truth. One question remains. Only one. Why now? You could have done this years ago. When the fleet was larger. When Earth still had its voice." Kaya turned slowly, eyes glinting. Because they weren't listening then. The Empire had heard Earth scream. They had not heard Earth wait. Zareth stood before the Galactic Senate, eyes dull behind his carapace's thick ridges. The council chamber, once a place of ceremonial triumph, now flickered under red emergency light. Only half the seats were filled. Many had resigned. More had vanished. A few simply stopped answering hails. "There is no confirmation of human fleets," he growled to the chamber. "No direct communication from Earth. No formal declaration of war." "They don't declare war," a junior ambassador muttered. "They send a girl with a lunchbox." Zaretha's mandibles twitched. "Rel is a symbol," he said. "Symbols can be burned." Zornik, disheveled and quieter than usual, shuffled datasheets between trembling fingers. "We've tried. We bombed her. Exiled her. Discredited her. And she came back smiling. She's mortal." "Then why," Zornik said softly, "is everyone acting like she's the end of prophecy?" A silence settled over the chamber. Outside, stars flickered as if flinching. They still didn't know where she was. On Winnow, Kaya stood alone in the observation bay. Below, the planet Vorsith turned slowly. Once a model colony. Now a battleground of whispers, where drones malfunctioned, crops refused to grow, and every security feed occasionally glitched into her face. Fear wasn't loud. It didn't shout. It crept in. Like memory. Like cold. Her calm blinked. "Message from Zareth," Birdie said. "Encrypted. Scrambled. Very angry. Play it. The Admiral's voice barked through the channel, all sharp edges and shaken authority. Kaya Rel, cease operations immediately. You are destabilizing regional peace. Your tactics violate at least a dozen intergalactic accords. Accords you signed after torching our moon bases, Kaya cut in, recording her reply on the fly. You want peace? You shouldn't have hunted the species that invented vengeance. You never answered his question. Kaya raised an eyebrow. He keeps asking why you returned. I didn't. Birdie paused. Clarify. I never came back, she said. I never left. I waited. And waiting, for Kaya, had always meant preparing. Across 5 systems, mines she'd planted years ago pulsed awake, disguised as Empire communications relays. Drones disguised as salvage tech swarmed at pre-programmed triggers. Civilian ships, quiet, unarmed, shifted course to form an untraceable net around Empire trade lines. On Vorsith, 3 primary power grids failed simultaneously. On Virex, 2, statues of Kaya appeared overnight, made of discarded metal and coated with songs that rewrote surveillance firmware into looped audio clips of her last speech. And over it all, one message spread like fire. You killed one of us. We waited. Now you'll learn what grows in silence. Zareth issued the order at midnight. Mobilize the last intact fleet. No more caution. No more strategy. Find her. Crush her. Prove that she bleeds. His ships launched within the hour. None of them arrived at their destination. Kaya had mapped the warp routes years ago. She'd mapped the blind spots, the shortcuts, the overused relays and forgotten drift paths. And in every one, she'd left a trap. One by one, warp gates collapsed. Starships vanished into their own tunnels. Empire comms were flooded not with distress calls, but with music. Earth music. Old, strange, human. A cappella lullabies. Thunderous orchestras. As the sort of music that accompanied movements you couldn't stop. By dawn, Kaya stood before her assembled crew. 12 in all. Each one revenant marked. Not warriors. Survivors. Strategists. Artists. Saboteurs. Chameleons. She addressed them not with speeches, but with a single phrase. They don't know what they woke. From behind, Birdie whispered. One last target remains. Kaya nodded. Zaretha's flagship. Coordinates are dramatic. Good. The Winnow jumped. It arrived above Virex Prime like a myth wrapped in steel. Sleek. Silent. Unannounced. Zareth stood on his bridge, watching it appear with grim certainty. She's here, he said. And then, prepare the beam. But before his weapons could charge, 1,000 civilian channels went live. Every broadcast. Every signal tower. Kaya's face. No more war, she said. No more treaties. Her eyes were steady. Her voice soft. Not triumphant. Just done. You never feared us when we screamed. So now we won't. No bullets. No missiles. Just memory. The Winnow powered down weapons. Kaya opened every comm line and waited. Not for mercy. For comprehension. Zareth stared into the transmission, unmoving. Behind him, one of his officers muttered, "This isn't war. This is legacy." Then his navigation console exploded in static. From every side, Empire systems crashed, overload codes, human-written, designed years prior. The Empire had never been outgunned. It had been outthought. Every terminal that rebooted showed one phrase. Humans don't come back. We wait. Kaya stood at her station, surrounded by the hum of her crew, watching it unfold. Not the battle, but the unraveling of belief. Birdie's voice trembled. We've won. No, she said. We just reminded them who we are. The Virex Prime defense grid powered down. Their flagship shut its shields. Not in surrender. In awe. Zornik, thousands of light years away, turned off his monitor and began packing quietly. He didn't need orders. He was done. Empire Command tried to issue retaliation protocols. No one answered. Kaya turned to her crew. I told you this wasn't revenge. They nodded. This was restoration. They had waited. Through humiliation. Through extinction rumors. Through silence. Not broken. Not gone. Dormant. And now, awake. The final message broadcast to every system. You mistook patience for weakness. You mistook kindness for ignorance. You mistook humanity for extinction. We are none of those things. We are the thing that waits. The thing that endures. The thing that smiles while it builds the knife. Kaya Rel closed the channel. Outside her window, stars burned brighter. Inside her chest, no rage remained. Only purpose. Only memory. And the infinite weight of knowing she had ended an empire with nothing more than time, planning, and the sharp edge of what it means to be human.